Hello everyone, welcome to Readers IS. Today we'll be dealing with chapter 4 which is related to executive. This chapter 4 is from Political Science class 11 NCERT Constitution at Work. So in this chapter the executive will see that composition, structure and function of executive organ of government. The government consists of three organs: executive, legislature and judiciary. So we will see structure and functioning of this second organ, executive. In this chapter, first we'll make the distinction between parliamentary and presidential system. Then we'll see the constitutional position of president in India. Then we'll see composition and functioning of council of minister and prime minister. And finally we see the importance and functioning of administrative machinery in India. With this intention, we are beginning with this chapter. In this chapter, you will see that government consists of three organs. These three organs are executive, judiciary, legislature. Executive can be divided into two parts: political executive and permanent executive. Political executive consists of prime minister and council of minister. Permanent executive consists of all India service, central service and state services. This political executive is elected. It will remain in office for 5 years, after which new election will be conducted and another political executive will come to power. But this permanent executive is selected, not elected. Once it is recruited, till the age of retirement, that is 60 years, they will continue in office. So what do you mean by executive? We'll see. Executive means a body of person which will implement rules and regulations in practice. Executive is that organ of government which looks after the implementation and administration of the law. So what we can conclude is that this legislative organ will make the law. The law enacted by legislature will be implemented by executive, and whether law is constitutional or not will be implemented by judiciary. So we have seen this definition, and there is another definition of executive, that executive is such branch of government which is responsible for implementation of laws and policies adopted by the legislature. So this is the simple definition of executive. After having seen executive, we'll see the types of executive. So we have seen that political executive is of two types: political executive and permanent executive. So heads of government and ministers, which has an overall responsibility of governing policy, will be included in political executive. But those people who are responsible for day-to-day administration will be called as permanent executive. So this is the difference between political executive and permanent executive. Now we'll see that democracy is of two types: direct, indirect, and this direct democracy can be divided into parliamentary and presidential system. So now we'll see what are the different type of executives under parliamentary and presidential system. First, we'll see the nature of executive. Every country will have different kind of executive. For example, USA, Canada, Japan, Russia, Germany. So what kind of difference is between parliamentary and permanent executive, we'll see now. In presidential form system, in all the countries wherever there is presidential system, this presidential system, president is head of state and head of government both. Office of president becomes very powerful both in theory and practice. So this kind of presidential system is prevalent in United States, Brazil and most Latin American countries. So here we will see exactly the difference between parliamentary system and another type of executives. In parliamentary system, there are two heads: head of state and head of government. So head of state, here it will be like this. This will be the head of state, and this will be the head of government. So head of state is monarch in UK and Canada, and head of state in India is president. While head of government in all countries are prime minister and council of minister. So you have seen the types of executives. So executive based on collective leadership or individual leadership. This is generally in presidential system, and this is generally in parliamentary system and semi-presidential system. So head of government in parliamentary system is called prime minister. Here president is the head of state, and here president is head of state but also the head of government. So this is the difference between parliamentary form of government and presidential form of government. Another difference you will see that prime minister is the leader in the majority party in the legislature. Prime minister is accountable to legislature. He is okay. So, and head of state can be monarch or president. Head of state can be monarch or presidential. Monarch if there is constitutional democracy, president if there is parliamentary democracy, and he will be the ceremonial head. While in presidential system, president is elected directly by the people and he is not accountable to legislature, as in the case of parliamentary system where executive is accountable to legislature, but in presidential form of system executive is not accountable to legislature. So you have seen from above discussion what we can conclude, that in parliamentary system and in presidential system executive is accountable to legislature. Yes, in parliamentary system it is no. In presidential system executive is not accountable to legislature. So this is the conclusion of all the above discussion. Now, having seen this, we'll explore the parliamentary system. So in parliamentary system we have seen that who is the head of government? It is prime minister. And who is the nominal head of the state? It is president. So president and monarch can be the ceremonial head, and prime minister along with cabinet will have effective powers. This kind of system is prevalent in Germany, UK, Japan. Now, having seen the parliamentary system, we will see what kind of executive is there in India. So what kind of system India has adopted, parliamentary or presidential? There are two systems of executive, parliamentary and presidential system. India has adopted parliamentary system. Why? Why India has adopted parliamentary system, which this we will see. The first and foremost reason India adopted parliamentary form of system is the experience. During the British rule, the Acts of 1919 and 1935 provided our national leaders experience of working under the parliamentary system. It is for this reason we Indians have adopted parliamentary system. Second big reason is that in parliamentary system executive is responsible and accountable to legislature, as we have seen earlier. So our constitutional framers preferred responsibility and accountability, and so we adopted parliamentary system. Third, in presidential system there is always problem of personality cult. To avoid this kind of personality cult, constitutional framers adopted parliamentary system in India. And finally, the executive will always be answerable and controlled by the legislature. It is for this reason Constitution of India has adopted parliamentary form of system at the both national and state level. So these are the above four reasons why India has adopted parliamentary system in our country. Having seen the reasons, now we'll see the powers of president, prime minister and council of minister. So which article of the constitution determines the power of president, prime minister and council of? It is article 14. Article 14 says There shall be a council of minister with prime minister. They will aid and advise president, and this president shall exercise his functions only in accordance with such advice. Provided the president may require the council of ministers to reconsider the advice, but president will always act in accordance with the advice tendered after the reconsideration. Okay, so what does this mean? That when PM headed by council of minister headed by PM will advise the president, and president will always act according to that advice. Now president can send this advice back for the reconsideration, but this reconsidered advice will always be binding on the president. President can neither reject or do not formally say that it cannot accept the advice of PM and council of minister. So you will see that this article 74 makes president of India the nominal head. This makes president of India the nominal head, and PM and council of minister the real head. So this is the significance of article 74. Every student should focus here on this clarification that the 24th Amendment Act is related to CAB, Constitutional Amendment Bill. According to this amendment, when Parliament will pass the Constitutional Amendment Bill, it will be presented to President, and it will be binding on President to give assent to Constitution Amendment Bill. This is according to 24th Amendment Act. Now, 42nd Amendment Act is related to advice, not to CAB. This 42nd Amendment says that PM and Council of Ministers will advise to President, and this advice shall be binding. So according to this 42nd Amendment, it made President rubber stamp. But later 44th Amendment said that Prime Minister, whatever advice it will give, Prime Minister and Council of Ministers to President, this President can send back the advice for reconsideration, but the reconsidered advice shall be binding on the President. And so 42nd Amendment Act, this 42nd Amendment Act which made President rubber stamp, 44th Amendment Act restored the glory of the President and prevented the office of President from becoming a complete rubber stamp. So this is all about the powers of President, Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Now you have seen that President shall always act on the advice of PM and Council of Ministers. But there are certain situations when this President will act without the aid and advice of PM and Council of Ministers. And when President will do so, it is called discretionary power. Now we'll see whether this discretionary power is in Constitution or what kind of discretionary power is withheld by the President. So to understand discretionary powers of President, we'll see that President has no discretionary power in any circumstances. Is it so? It is an incorrect statement. Why? According to Constitution, President has discretionary power. And this discretionary power means here President will act without the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. So President has right to be informed on all matters of deliberations of Council of Ministers. This is his discretionary power. Prime Minister should furnish all the information to President which may call for. This is another discretionary power. Then President will often write to Prime Minister and express his views on the matters confronting the country. This is the other discretionary power. So this kind of discretionary powers are in Constitution. Now we'll see that this President has other three situations where the President can exercise his discretionary power. Which are these three situations where President has discretionary power? Discretionary power means where President can act without the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. So this is the first situation. Here President can send back the advice given by Council of Minister, but the reconsidered advice shall be binding. So the first time when the president is sending back the advice for reconsideration, he will act on his discretion without the aid and advice of Council of Ministers. So this is the first situation. Second situation where the president enjoys the discretionary power is related to the bills. President can withhold or refuse bills. This power is called veto power. So this is the second situation where president will have discretionary power. So we have seen two situations. Now we will see the third situation where the president enjoys the discretionary power. So this is the third situation where president enjoys the discretionary power is while appointing the prime minister. So normally you will see that in a parliamentary system, the leader of the political party who has a majority in Lok Sabha would be appointed as prime minister. But what happens when no leader has a clear majority? It is here the president has the discretionary power in deciding whom to appoint the prime minister. So this is the third situation where president has discretionary power. After seeing the discretionary power of president, we will see why or what are the reasons that you require president. President is a formal power holder. He is the ceremonial head of the nation. So why do you need the office of president? Now see, in a parliamentary system, Council of Ministers will depend on the majority of the legislature. So if they don't enjoy the majority, they will be removed and new Council of Ministers will be appointed. So in this case, in this kind of situation, you require a head of state with a fixed term who is empowered to appoint the new prime minister and symbolically represent the entire country. And this is exactly the role of president in ordinary circumstances. Another reason why we need the president is when no party has clear majority. So president will make a choice and appoint prime minister to run the country. So these are the above reasons why we need the office of prime minister. Why we need the office of president in India. Now we'll see the office of vice president. What is the difference between the method of election between the president and vice president? You will see whenever the president is elected, both center and state will participate. But in case of the election of vice president, state legislatures do not participate in the electoral college. Vice president is elected for the 5-year term. He can be removed by the resolution passed by Rajya Sabha and agreed by Lok Sabha. The function of the office of prime minister, vice president, is to be ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. What speaker is to Lok Sabha is chairman is to Rajya Sabha. So this chairman, he is the presiding officer of the Rajya Sabha. And other functions of vice president is to take over the office of president when there is vacancy by reasons of death, resignation and removal or impeachment of president. Another situation when vice president acts as president is only until a new president is elected to prevent the interregnum. For example, B.D. Jatti. He acted as president when Fakhruddin Ali, the then president, died and until the new president was elected. So, if we will compare the election of president and vice president, the difference is of state legislature participation. President is the head of state, and in normal times vice president is the chairman of Rajya Sabha. So in the election of head of state, both center and state should participate. But as a presiding officer of Rajya Sabha, it is not required that the state legislature should participate. It is for this reason there is no participation of state legislature in the election of vice president, but the same state legislature will participate during the election of president. So this is the exact difference between the election of president and vice president. Having seen the office of president and vice president, now we will move to the office of prime minister. Office of prime minister. You will see that in a parliamentary form of government, prime minister can continue in the office if he is enjoying the majority of Lok Sabha. And if prime minister loses his majority in Lok Sabha, he will lose his office. So the continuance or existence of prime minister depends on his majority in the Lok Sabha. Till the time prime minister will enjoy the majority, he will continue in office, and the day he loses the majority, he has to quit the office. So now we'll see the functions of the office of prime minister. Prime minister will decide which ministers will be in council of ministers, who will be the ministers in council of ministers. He allocates portfolios depending on the seniority and the political importance of the minister. Same manner, chief minister in the state will choose ministers. Prime minister and all the ministers have to be members of parliament. In other words, they have to be MPs. So this are the different functions related to the office of prime minister. Now, having seen president, vice president and prime minister, we'll move to see the size of council of minister. So this size of council of minister, before 91st Amendment Act 2003 there was no restriction, but after the 91st Amendment Act it put a cap that total number of council of ministers shall not exceed the 15% of the total member of the House of People. Okay, so this is the amendment which all you students should take into consideration. After having seen the size of council of minister, we will see the functions of council of minister. So here you will see that council of minister is collectively responsible to Lok Sabha. This means that this provision, a ministry which loses the confidence of the House of Lok Sabha will has to resign. This principle of collective responsibility indicates that ministry is an executive committee of parliament. Ministry collectively governs but on behalf of parliament. Okay, and whenever there is vote of no confidence even against the single minister, then entire council of minister has to resign. If minister does not agrees with the policy of the government, then he should resign. So in context of India, you will see that these are the functions of the council of minister. Now we'll see PM vis-a-vis council of minister. When prime minister resigns or there is a death, then there will be automatic dissolution of council of ministers. But when any minister gives resignation or there is a dismissal or demise, it only creates a vacancy and new minister will be appointed. But in case of prime minister, whole new council of minister has to be appointed. It is for this reason Nehru has called prime minister linchpin of government. What do you mean by linchpin? The most vital organ of organization is called linchpin. So here PM is linchpin and PM is the most vital organization of entire governmental machinery. So this is how we have seen this all functions related to prime minister, council of ministers and prime minister vis-a-vis council of minister. Now we will see that the power with prime minister. The power of prime minister depends on the political conditions. If there is a single party rule, then prime minister will have more power. But if there is a coalition, the power of prime minister will decrease. So power of prime minister depends on the political condition. If a single party has complete majority, power of prime minister will be more, and if there is a coalition, coalition will reduce the power of prime minister. This coalition government has also affected the discretionary powers of president. Similarly, the powers of president, when there is single party and complete majority, the power of president will be reduced, and when there is coalition, the power of president will increase. This you can read out in this complete paragraph. This is the essence of this whole paragraph, how the powers of president and prime minister depends on the political conditions. Having discussed all this about, now we will move towards the most important organ of the government, which is very much relevant to you. You people, after clearing this civil service examination, you will become the part of the permanent executive or the bureaucracy. The executive organ of government consists of prime minister, ministers, and a large scale machinery called bureaucracy. So this permanent bureaucracy or permanent executive is called civil service. They are trained. You will have Masuri training of 2 years. They are skilled. They are permanent employees, and they will always assist the ministers in formulating the policies. So this is all about the permanent executive of the government apart from political executive. This permanent executive is always politically accountable, means permanent bureaucracy will be accountable to political executive. They will be politically neutral. They do not adhere to any political ideology. They will work in the government irrespective of any kind of political Marxist, Congress, BJP comes into power. Structure. We will see structure. Indian bureaucracy will consist of all India service, state service, local government and public sector. This I'll explain you ahead. We have created a chart. So this is the structure of Indian bureaucracy. Union Public Service Commission is doing the recruitment, and the members of the Union Public Service Commission themselves are appointed for the fixed term. If they have to be removed or suspended, it can only be done through an inquiry by the judge of Supreme Court. In these services, you will find reservation for the weaker sections of the society. So, this is the classification of civil service in India. This is the All India Service, IAS, IPS. This is the central service, and this is the state service. So what is the difference between these services? These members of All India services are cadre based services. You will be allocated a cadre, and throughout life you have to stay in that particular cadre. This service do not have the cadre of its own. They mostly implement the subjects in the union list like income tax, foreign affairs. These services are appointed by the center but work with the state government or under the state government. These services are appointed by the central government or UPSC, and they work under central government itself. And these members of state services are appointed and work under the state government. Central government has no role in the control or recruitment of state service officers. So this is the complete difference which I explained you above, that IAS, IPS or All India officers are appointed by the central government. They can serve in the central government but on deputation. After the completion of deputation, they will go back to the state. So this is all details about the All India services. Here only central government can take disciplinary action against them, while administrative officers of state are under the supervision and control of central government. Apart from IAS, the IPS officers are also appointed by UPSC. The administration of the state is looked down by these officers. We will see this in later chapter, federalism, how this feature of bureaucracy has strengthened the control of central government over the states. This we'll see later in detail. So this is all about the executive wing of the government. This is the essence you should read. Conclusion. and this is the exercises. Please go through it. These are the some questions which all students should solve after going through this chapter, and these are other questions. So finally, this all above discussion is related to executive, and we are completing here. Now we will move to the another chapter. Thank you. Have a nice day.